Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We are so happy to see you and have you here today. We are the nestEggBuilder.com. And what we do is we work with you to show you how to build a nest if you don't already have it, or how to overload it with eggs and great commercial real estate investments. So give us a ring and let us know how we could support you in what you're doing. Today, we have the amazing Steve Sciurba, whom I have known for many, many years. He and I were in Rotary together in Sierra Madre, and he ran a place that was newly built called the Kensington here in Sierra Madre, and filled that up for assisted living and Alzheimer's. He's amazing at what he does. He's a marketing person, which is why he got hired and why he was successful in filling up the Kensington. And today we have Steve talking about the path from living in your own home to living in an assisted living, and the things that are really important because we know is stressful for many a person, which would include my mom and probably several of your parents. So Steve, thanks so much for being here. I am so excited about you being here today. So thanks so much. Take it away.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over to my PowerPoint. Bear with me here a second. I'm just kind of new at Zoom, so bear with me just a second. Share screen. Okay. There we go. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to start at the beginning. And there we go. So I was asked to speak on the emotional journey of leaving your family's home for assisted living. This could be your own home. It could be, there are actually a couple type of people I deal with. I mean, you have to customize for every individual. Everybody's different. I've worked with those that are ready to go and they want to. It's easy. There's an easy transition. You just have to gather their stuff and go. There's others that have memory impairment, and they have just enough memory to know that they don't want to go. There are mainly I deal with the adult female child. That's kind of the target audience I work with. So, and I don't want to go. That's what we talk about. So, being that said, I want to talk about some of the myths that people come across that you probably know a lot of these myths yourselves, but I just kind of want to go over them just to let you know some of the hangups that people have about going into assisted living. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. Myths about assisted living. And you can see a beautiful assisted living there in the background. They're not like this anymore. The old skilled nursing, smelly. And this is what a lot of the elderly are kind of used to with their grandparents or parents visiting their loved ones in a skilled nursing environment. So that's one of the myths. That's what they're thinking. They're going to go into a skilled nursing and no one's going to visit them, and it's nothing to do, just sitting around, watch TV, if that. That's what they're thinking it is. So assisted living actually, they work with ADLs, activities of daily living, which include personal dressing, bathing, grooming, and medication management, if needed. So a lot of people go into an assisted living for just a social model. There's a widow or widower, and they just want the social aspect of going to an assisted living where you don't need all of this. So a lot of this is a la carte. Another myth is that they won't be able to be on their own schedule. And that's pretty far from the truth. Nowadays, assisted living, I'm just talking in general too on these living, but in general, assisted livings nowadays have a lot of amenities. There's one here in Glendora where I live. They have a wine cellar, a wine bar. They have a gym, a full gym. They don't have to use a gym, a gym, a computer room, a game room, a pool room. It's phenomenal what they get. So they're really never bored. And if they want to be on their own schedule, that's fine. If not, there's all these amenities that they have to use. So this is another one, and this is a very legit question. It costs too much money. It's too much, too expensive. Now we get this a lot, and this is probably where you guys all come in, where you want to plan ahead. A lot of people did not talk, or back in the day, about long-term care insurance. That's the thing that Peggy and I were talking about this earlier. Long-term care insurance. We had 75 residents at the Kensington, actually 90 residents at Kensington, because we had double some shared rooms, like husband and wives. But we had only 13 with long-term care insurance. So this is something that if they have long-term care insurance, it's like gold right now. There's also VA benefits. The VA benefits are only for those that it's like aid and attendance during certain parts of the war. They qualify for VA benefits, but also they have to have only so much in the bank. So it's almost like Medi-Cal. But there is those benefits, which pays up to $2,000 a month, and then or more. And then there's the sale of the home, and that's the biggest, I would say, the biggest factor where most people get their money for assisted living. And nowadays they may have bought their home, maybe 13,000 back in the day. Now they're selling them for $2 million. So that's where a lot of the money comes from, is from the home. So when you look at that, as long as you don't have a stingy daughter or family, usually you can use the home for the rest of their life for assisted living. So that something that this is kind of one of the toughest parts of. It is a myth. It's not a myth, but yet it is expensive. So keep that in mind. Another myth is I won't be able to go anywhere. Nowadays, there's several modes of transportation. When I was working at the Kensington, we had a bus for activities. We had a bus for the physician to take people to physician calls. So we had there's a lot of freedom to go places. So that's a myth that people have. Also, they're free to come and go at their will. So a lot of times, unless there's memory impairment involved, they can usually come and go. And families, they can go out for family outings, they go out for vacations. They're able to go. They're not in prison. They're not imprisoned in the living environment. Also, no privacy. That's another thing that people think about. There'll be no privacy. Now, these rooms now are spacious. This is very similar to a room in the last place I told you about in Glendora. There's plenty of room. Some of them even there's one in West Covina that has its own kitchen, and you think you were in a luxury apartment. Some of them are very spacious and nice. So most of them are kind of like apartment complex that I mentioned there. Most rooms are private. A lot of people think they have to share. They're kind of using that idea of going back to the skilled nursing days where you have to share a room, sometimes 2, 3 in a room. That's not true anymore. Some communities have, we talked about the amenities. There are a lot of amenities in a lot of these places that, it's marketing. I mean, a lot of people want to get their census up, so they want to, have the nicest place out there. So you'll see more and more down the road where you get these luxury assisted living communities and with more and more amenities. One of the things that people ask for a lot are swimming pools, and because of liability issues, there aren't a whole lot of swimming pools at assisted living. Villa Gardens in Pasadena, they do have a swimming pool, but they also have independent living as well as assisted living. So you won't see as much of that kind of thing. But there are several amenities. I won't be able to do my favorite things. Now, there's a lot of times people will go into assisted livings and they just say, I just read. But then they get involved in jewelry making. And there's painting on silk scarves. There's a lot of social type of activities. Cocktail hours, that's very prevalent now, where every day at 4 o'clock they'll come down, listen to some live music, and partake in cocktails. So that's a big thing with the Kensington where we really really took it. Yeah, sorry about that. A lot of the residents took advantage of the cocktail hour. And then I will be lonely and bored. That's one of the biggest things. Now that's kind of where they're coming from a lot of times. I'm working with one right now. This guy was 300 pounds. He lives in an apartment upstairs. The family was just bringing him his meals. He didn't even leave his room for 5 years. And now he's going to be going into assisted living. And he's apprehensive because everybody kind of, took care of him, but he had a fall and there's no alternative at this point. He knows that. So now he's partaking in physical therapy to get himself more mobile, and he will be partaking in activities. And I think once he gets into a community, he'll see the advantages. And I think his life will blossom. Can you imagine 5 years in one place? It's crazy. But there's really, it's far from being lonely and bored. Even in the 6-bed communities, which are the board and cares, they always have some kind of activity, and they do get their residents acquainted with each other, and a lot of friendships are formed. I won't like the food. Now that could be true in some places. I mean, but in most cases that I'm coming across, they were bringing in gourmet chefs. At the Kensington, there's salmon for lunch, steak for dinner, and a lot of times the residents even have a choice of what they want. Usually there's 2 specials, and then there's an everyday menu. There's usually plenty of choices. And the residents now have the ability to speak with the various dining services people in order to let them know what they like. I had another situation where it was an Asian lady that liked Asian food. I mean, she liked Chinese food. She was Mandarin speaking, and that's what she preferred. So I had her speak to a chef over in, it was actually the Arcadia area, and he was able to appease her. So there's a lot of variety of food that one can get. Now, there are some that are less expensive, and maybe they have a more of a narrow menu. But for most part, most of the ones I deal with do have a big variety of food and will cater to the residents. Now, that's kind of the myths that I'm speaking of. There's probably 100 more myths that people. There's always an excuse why somebody doesn't want to go into an assisted living, but these are kind of the major ones that I work with. So there's the emotional. The emotions need to be addressed, though. We need to recognize the feelings of sadness, nostalgia, anxiety. Maybe they're leaving a environment where they had a husband that passed away, and that's nostalgia there. There's a lot of feelings that we have to address. In these situations, sometimes we have to bring in professional people. One is a geriatric care manager. I don't know if anybody's familiar with a geriatric care manager, but they work with seniors in order to get them in the right environment. And sometimes they have, depending on who it is, there's a lady in Monrovia, her name is Mary Winters, who is she's like one of the best geriatric care managers in the area. And she has a team of people that help guide seniors in the right direction. Maybe you need to bring clergy, counselors, psychologists, and maybe support groups. A lot of that times, what I would like to do too is with some of these communities, there's usually they call them ambassadors that are actually residents in certain communities. So what I like to do is get in ahead of time, and maybe most of the time these communities will offer a free lunch or dinner, whatever it might be, and have the resident come in and speak with the new resident to be, and kind of show them the ropes and let them know about the meals and what goes on in the community. And sometimes these people become their best friends. So, but emotions are definitely there, and that's something that needs to be addressed. So, as a caregiver or as a family member, they need to create a positive future, envisioning the benefits of the, mom, you're alone right now, especially during COVID. This was a big problem. People were almost feeling like they were in jail because they were isolated to their apartments or homes, wherever it may be, and they didn't have that, that camaraderie or that social aspect. Being that said, a lot of people deteriorated as far as memory goes. There might have been some mild cognitive impairment, and all of a sudden, a couple of years later, it's full-blown dementia, and that's from being isolated. So, so what we need to do is as somebody that is working with somebody going into a residence like this, is to create that positive future and what is to come, and especially the social. That's a real very important part of all this. Also, preserving memories is very important. A lot of times a person cannot bring the whole house with them because they're going maybe from a 4-bedroom house to apartments are modest, maybe 1-bedroom apartment or maybe even a studio. So I would say document through photos, have them write journal entries, bring that kind of stuff with them. Select sentimental items. A lot of times I suggest bringing in pieces of furniture that meant a lot to them. That maybe their bedroom set was something that somebody enjoyed with their spouse, maybe bringing that in. Decluttering needs to be done mindfully. And again, there's people that do this for a living. I work with a local decluttering service here in Glendora, and she does a great job in decluttering and also picking out the right items for a particular apartment. And she works with the resident and the families, and kind of gathers what she feels would be the right thing or what right for the space that they're going into, and it's a seamless move. So these are kind of things that should be done. And also creating a moving timeline is very important for the big move. So once you got them convinced that they're going to go, do a timeline. It's easier to set up dates and say, this is what we're going to do this date, we're going to move on this date, or we're going to gather everything in this date, we're going to move in this date, and you're going to be in by the 30th of the month. So that's very important when we talk about the actual move itself. So it's doing a timeline. And also family members get all the family members should get involved, also embracing the new beginning, allowing time to adjust. A lot of times I tell people, let the new resident come in first, and maybe don't come in for a week, just so the person can adjust. Now, this works sometimes, but most of the time it's good to get family involved. And they can explore together the new community. They can rediscover old hobbies and explore new interests. I have a lady I'm moving in West Covina. She'll be moving in the end of January. She was a puppeteer, and she made puppets, but she had a lot of puppets, and there was no way she could bring them all with her. But she had a favorite one she did, and she had a lot. She also did jewelry making with, I think it was a local school. So I suggest that she gather that and maybe use that as an activity and help those residents where she was going as a new activity. She was really, really creative lady. She actually worked with oh gosh, Bob Baker marionettes. So just an example of what people can. Um, and in the new home, I would say make a wish list of personalizing the new space. So this would be kind of what I said earlier. Maybe family pictures, bring them in, and you can't get them all, but maybe the group pictures and things like that, just bring them in. It gives that personalized feeling. Stay connected with either personally or virtually. This is what the family should do. A lot of times people think, well, they're in assisted living. Okay, they have their own friends now. I'm not going to visit. But it's very important to get those visitors. When I was at the Kensington in Sierra Madre, we would celebrate, every holiday. For Thanksgiving, we'd bring in families. We'd have 10 family members in for Thanksgiving dinner. It's very important. A lot of times people think, well, they're just going to do Thanksgiving over there, so we won't worry about it. But it gives a sense of home when you can celebrate with a loved one. And celebrating the move, when I say celebrating the move, maybe have a welcome party for your loved one. This is another thing that I would suggest people. And emphasize this as a new adventure. I think that's a good way to look at it. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I wanted to get more questions and answers. I try to answer your questions, excuse me. I'm not used to speaking like this, so especially virtually. So but bear with my stuttering in that.
You're doing great. So one request is that you put your information so people could connect with you
Sure.
in the chat if you know how to do that. Stop sharing.
Look here, I see participants, and I put that.
I don't want to give you too many things at one time.
Oh.
But I do.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yes, is your hand up? I don't see it. We need.
I'm sorry, my hand's not up. I just need to know who your very first slide. There was a picture of a gentleman in that slide. It did not look anything like you.
Oh, that was a few years ago.
Okay.
No, that's the Steve I know.
Yeah.
I was like, who is that?
That was probably about 10 years ago. So
okay.
He's still good looking. Change
Oh,
the
God.
glasses.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, so did you see where you stopped the share, Steve?
Oh, stop share. Sorry. There we go.
Okay, great.
There we go.
Great observation, Eugene. I really love it. Hey, Jesse, I am so happy to see you. It's been years.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, great,
I'm still trying to do the chat thing here. I try to do two things at once, so bear with me just a second here.
That's all right. You do that. Can you listen while you're looking for the chat?
I think so. Yeah.
Down at the bottom towards the left, it says chat, at least on my screen. If you click that, you can.
Oh, there we go. Got it.
Yeah, and then people can get in touch with you if they want more information or if they want to talk about their family. So excuse me, John, and before we call on you, do you work all over the United States?
No, I work basically just in Southern California.
I'm sorry, where?
I do place. I'm very familiar with San Gabriel Valley.
Okay.
I place people in Palm Springs area.
Okay.
And Los Angeles. I'm just placing somebody in Los Angeles right now, but I'm pretty well San Gabriel Valley.
Okay, so not out of state. So not
one person busy.
I'm sure it does, being that we have a large number of people that live here. So not Arizona, where there are a lot of
no. And the licensure is different there. I work with I didn't mention this, but all of the the communities that I work with are under the California State Department of Health, so that it's under California. So that's all I can deal with.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
would, so
And when
you
you license, when
get
you
licensed
yes,
for Arizona or another state?
no, it's just California.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So Jonna, and then Ted, and then Kathy.
So my question is similar to where the conversation was just going, is that I believe in maybe you can talk a little bit about this, but there are people that help you find the right facility.
I use a database. A lot of that's why I'm kind of concentrated in San Gabriel Valley, because I know them. I've actually been in the industry quite a few years, and I know a lot of people, and I try to stay with the ones I'm familiar with. However, I've got a database that I work with, and it'll pull up every community in California. So I could conceivably go anywhere. And the way I work, I work as basically I contract with the facility I work with. So it's impossible for me to contract with everybody. So, like for instance, the one I have in Los Angeles right now, I'm working with. I contacted the operator. I went ahead and make sure he didn't have any deficiencies that would be outstanding deficiencies or anything like that. And then I toured the facility. This is a six-bed community, and contracted them right away. And then I've got a person now coming. So that's the way I work. And the way I don't charge families anything. How I get paid is from the facilities that place it. I make a percentage of the first month.
Okay, so Steve, we have people from all over the country here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So John is in Washington. We have people from Florida here,
Oh, gotcha.
Illinois. And so if you have a database, do you have a database of people you could refer over to another, like a person like you, or?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. There are people like me all over the country. Most of the ones that are independent like me kind of work in their own state.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm also a licensed administrator for the state of California, so I can actually be executive director as well. So I can, I do know it's Title 22 rules and regulations.
But I'm the only one in California that's on this call, practically. So yeah. So go ahead, Jonna.
So that was my question. It's a more general question. Are there a certification? Is there something that it's called? Like, where would we start our search for our parents, or even to think about for our own future?
I would say one thing, I would go with more of an independent person like me, as opposed to the big ones like A Place for Mom, or let's say caring.com. Because what'll happen with those, they'll send you just a bunch of places to go to look at. And what they'll do is collect, they don't care where you go. They do have reps that are out there who make a very little fee, basically. And they just you don't get that personal touch. Whereas somebody like me will take you in the community, show you the ins and outs. Because not every community is the same, as you probably will. This is general, common sense. For instance, you may be looking for somebody with dementia, and not everybody will work with dementia, those with memory impairment. So, it's just for an example. There are those that might be more suited for board and care, and as opposed to a larger one. But A Place for Mom and caring.com, they don't really care. They'll just send you wherever. They don't even consider board and cares because they don't contract with a lot of small board and cares, where that might be an opportunity to either save money or it's more appropriate for that resident. Mainly the ones that I work with board and cares on are the ones that with memory impairment. And it's usually a little less expensive. It's under they'll work more with the budget than the large one.
Great.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but I would say, I just work with the ones that's what I would suggest. And not everybody's the same. I would look at their credentials. If they have some kind of certification, that's probably the best one to work with. But it's reputation. With me, most of my clients come from word of mouth, and people know me, and they, that it just works for me. It's hard. It's hard though to find a good rep, but you do have to kind of look around and maybe ask, maybe look at their ratings, or as far as I have a Google reviews. Maybe look at Google reviews and that, and just see what kind of feedback you get.
Thank you.
Ted, question.
Hi, Steve.
Hi,
I'm in Chicago,
you're Santa Claus.
and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
And I took care of my wife for the last 5 years of her life, without a senior facility, although we had help from agencies to come in to give us some help.
And
So
that's
I'm
something.
more than a little familiar with your, with what you're doing.
And
And
that's something I was going to mention. I think
I have a friend that
home long
in
enough.
the area that can probably provide in this area similar services to what you're doing.
Mhm.
I'm a little curious from your, let's say from your observations and what you described, let's say how you see the let's say the distribution of senior care facility quality. That's what I saw from this is what I perceived from your presentation, was certainly what would be probably the best in town. So
And what area?
let's say if you made it,
What's the question?
you've made it equivalent to the, let's say, to a high school class. If this is the best in town, what's average look like?
In terms of what area are you in? What state?
Illinois.
Illinois. I can't really speak for Illinois, but I would definitely look at the care ratios. At whatever facility you're working with. A lot of times, if it's least expensive, it's probably the care ratio is probably like 1 to 30, one person to 30 people. I would definitely ask, what the care ratios are, and sometimes it's to the individual need. Some people have more needs than others, but definitely ask for the care ratio. That's going to be a big factor.
Ask for the what?
Care ratios. One
the
person
care
to
ratio.
so many residents. That's one of the reasons I choose board and care. If somebody has a lot of need, I'll because it's definitely 1 or 2 to 6, 2 caregivers to 6 people. So that's what I would look at as far as care goes. I would say, and I said this earlier, if you can keep the resident or person that needs help home as long as possible, I think that's wonderful. I think that's the best thing you can do. However, you got to consider your own health, and can you do it? That's the biggest thing. If you can bring in help and you afford to bring in the help, that's great. And I'm a strong believer of that. And just use assisted living as some people will flourish in assisted living environments, but some won't. I mean, it's just that's the way it works. But I would just say if you can take care of somebody at home, I think that's
Great. Great to know. Thank you. Kathy.
You said that it's not as expensive as we might think, and Medi-Cal covers what, $2,000 a month. Is that enough?
No. Well, with Medi-Cal, there's also, and the one thing I did not mention is there's a Medi-Cal waiver program. The problem with the Medi-Cal waiver program is usually a 2-year wait, and some people can't wait 2 years. But with Medi-Cal waiver, sometimes that's the only alternative. And sometimes what may happen is that if somebody can't afford an assisted living, they may wind up in what I talked about at the beginning, a skilled nursing environment, where they can be there until a a regular assisted living opens up. So that's kind of the alternative that one would come across. I mean, and I run into a lot of people like this that are, they just, there's just no way they can afford anything. And that's the only alternative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Kathy?
No, thanks.
Get better, my dear.
Thank you.
Oh, feel better.
Eugene.
Well, I got my first question answered. Who was that young man, that good-looking guy in the picture? I think you may have answered my second question as well about how you make money. So you get paid by the home or the facility, right?
Right. And just to let you know, these big ones I was talking about earlier, and I'm not that this means anything, but they usually want like 100 and something % of the first month rent, which is another thing that a lot of the big operators don't like dealing with them anyway because of that percentage they ask for. Whereas I personally, and I'll just be real candid with you, I charge 75%. So it's
Okay.
still, still hefty, and it's still a good amount of money. But it's just unreal. I guess you're paying for their advertising and their, all the marketing that they do in order to justify that kind of amount of money that they're asking for. They get it. It's a place for mom, basically. Caring.com. Those are the
Okay.
biggest ones nationally.
I guess it was meant for me to be on this call because on a Monday networking call that I participate every Monday morning, Ted participates in the same call. There's a guy in our group, and he was complaining about Care for Mom, or what's the name of the company?
Place for mom.
Place for Mom. And he was asking those of us in the group, he was looking for a legislative solution because he says they've got predatory practices.
They do.
And
They do.
oh,
Sometimes
they
you'll
do.
put in a facility and they come up automatically. And it's like they do this Google thing where you put in, let's say, XYZ assisted living, the place for mom, you get a place for mom rent. It's crazy the way it works.
Yeah, so he reached out. He asked a question in the call. Since we invest in real estate, I said maybe there's a legislative arm of what we do in real estate. I was thinking maybe there's a way. So I might put him in contact with you. I don't know because I have no idea how to help him. But
is he living in an assisted living right now, or is he looking?
no. He's in the business.
Oh, he's
So
in.
he does So he provides counseling to help people get into the right home. He's been in it for a little while, but he was complaining at our meeting on Monday about exactly what you said. Every time somebody puts, he said the SEO is set up in such a way that people can't find him. So he was complaining, and basically he said he believes they use predatory practices. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know that that's illegal.
Yeah,
I don't
guys
either.
like me, a lot of times they want to work with just the small ones because a place for mom is hooked up with all of these big guys out there. So all the Brookdales of the world and Sunrises and places like that.
Hi, this is Jen. I'm also a placement advisor. I'm in a little different area, Steve, so I'll be reaching out.
No worries.
But I can kind of answer that question. There is the NPRA. In my area, it's not so active, but I know in Scottsdale or in Arizona, it's very active. Up in Sacramento, it's very active, but they are trying to come up with a solution for a place for mom because they're basically a referral agency. They just give a list out. I've had several friends work for them, and they're pretty aggressive because their sales reps are they have to do 16 placements a month, basically. And so they just send out a list with your name on it. And there is a way, if you're working with a placement advisor, to sign a document that says, I'm working with this placement advisor, but I think you only have 5 days. But the NPRA is trying to find a solution, I guess.
Good.
Thank you.
Jen, I'd love
Thank you.
to, maybe we exchange. You never know.
Thank you for that.
So.
on the nest egg building part of this, we're considering investing in residential assisted living in 2024, 2025. Given that you're in the business on the consulting side or placement side, what's your assessment of investing in this part?
No, I think it's a good investment. Even my financial planner that I have now, he has properties. So I think it's good, especially since my understanding too is what's going to happen is that in California the minimum wages are going up, and so they're going to have to charge, I think, above the minimum wage. Plus the care ratios are going to be drastically improved, which is good, but that means the prices are going to go up for the bigger living. So I'm kind of thinking that would be, the smaller ones are going to prosper when that happens.
Great. And Eugene, you should give me a call because I've got a off-market property in North Carolina too, actually. If you're interested, we can talk.
I think we're playing phone tag, aren't we?
We could be, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm so far behind, I can't tell you.
All right.
I was at a meeting where I had 48 calls back, and I've gotten 3 or 4 of them done. So and I talked to somebody today who had 60 and he's down to 48. So it just takes time to call everybody back because we like to have, great conversations.
Yep. Thank you.
Kathy, do you have another question? Your hand's still up or up again?
Oh, sorry. I didn't bring it down. No other questions.
It's quite all right. Jesse, this is the first time we've seen you in quite some time. Do you have any particular questions about this well, you're not old enough to go in, so
Well, I know Steve. I've worked with Steve, and he does a really good job.
Oh yeah, I know you.
He's actually placed with us a couple of times, so I can definitely vouch for him.
Thank you.
oh, great. And you have your own properties now?
Yeah, so we operate 3. Most of them are. I have one that's in La Habra Heights, which is LA County. One in Whittier, that's LA County, and then I have one in Orange County, which is Lake Forest. And then we just got 2 new homes licensed, but those are for ARFs, so those for adults with disabilities.
So and do they specialize in anything? Like Alzheimer or the 3 that you do have? Or are they?
Yeah, so not really specialized, but we do have Alzheimer's and dementia residents, so any kind of memory care. Typically residents that are coming to our homes are they're either living in big boxes because they need too much care, or they are the first time looking around and they just so happen to pick us over some of the big boxes.
Great. Well, you have shifted since we talked last.
We got
Yes.
some beautiful board and cares there too. They're beautiful.
Yeah, board and care, they're really super important because they are smaller and the people can get the attention. Whereas, I mean, I think the Kensington's very lovely. I was the first to make an application there, so we could get that passed by the city, by the way. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely place. It's all those things that you talked about. And it's 90 rooms or something, right?
And wait list to get in.
Yeah.
Peggy, Maria
Yes,
had a question in the chat.
Okay, and then Norma has, yes, Norma.
Yeah, hi. I'm home with the flu, so anyway, but listening in. So Steve, I have a question. You mentioned the cost of the private facilities, and I just wanted to get a ballpark from you as to kind of what's the average weekly or whatever interval you think is appropriate cost for facilities, say in the San Gabriel Valley, or the daily cost, or
Oh boy, they vary. I mean, minimally, probably for board and care, minimally $5,000. And I would say
per month.
When we're going up, higher end, I have some that are charging. I just got through placing somebody who's paying $17,000 a month.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's for board and care.
No, well, no. I'm sorry. Board and cares are usually between 5 to, and I'd say in the Pasadena area, about $9,000.
Mm-hmm.
5 to 9 grand. Okay.
And the other was assisted living, where it could be up to 17.
The big assisted living, I think, as I mentioned, there's somebody was paying 17 grand at one time. I
Wow.
just placed them because I got them after what that were, because they were actually had a very high need, very high acuity. But I would say if I use Pasadena, that's kind of like a hub basic area. I mean, that's kind of a standard area. I would say 7 to 12, maybe.
Okay, thanks.
That's for the larger ones. And then I would say the smaller ones, I'd say more like 6 to 10.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What generally accounts for
And-
for the difference in the range, between low and high end, or low and high price?
I think it's a location. I can see, because in Pasadena, I can place somebody in Pasadena for, the ones that I like are like 8 grand, for let's say a board and care, like a 6-bed board and care. And then I can go to Monrovia, let's say, and pay for about the same size, but because it's Monrovia, 5 grand. Or let's say West Covina, or even parts of Glendora, we go. I start probably about 5 grand. So it's just it seems like Pasadena is kind of that little higher than the real estate, I would say.
Okay, and I have another question from the chat. And we did talk about this at the beginning about the long-term care insurance. And Maria is asking if this also covers memory care. And she wants to know how much they charge, but I know she has to have a conversation.
That
Because there's all different. It all depends on what you need, correct?
Yeah, well, not only that, but a lot of them are not even offering long-term care insurance. I'm not an expert by any means when it comes to long-term care insurance, but
the insurance covers all of it, right?
Yeah, I think in most cases they're looking for as long as somebody has a need for 3 ADLs, activities of daily living, which would be grooming, showering, dressing, all of the basic needs.
And meds.
Med management. I think they could be the socialization in that as well. But as long as those are covered, 3 ADLs are covered, that will usually qualify them for using the long-term care.
With the 90 days, it's 90 days before it actually kicks in from the time.
Yeah, but I think it's retroactive. I think it's retroactive. They just would get the reimbursement. I believe that's, but I'm no expert.
Right, I didn't see that on my policy, so like that. Okay, and then hi, Gary, nice to see you. You have a question for Steve?
Absolutely. Thank you. Actually, that's what it revolved around. Since we're all younger and don't need the senior living space yet, I wonder if you suggest that the people you've seen that did have long-term care, whether it was effective in helping them manage when they needed to move into a facility. I have a policy that actually I bought over 10 years ago. I know they changed a lot after that. I am an agent, but I haven't been focused on the area recently. But my understanding of reading is that they've gotten better. So we all should look into that, because there's one thing we know: we're not getting younger. Because if we are, I'm willing to go into business with you, because we'll make a lot of money.
Speak for yourself, Gary.
It's funny. My neighbor, she has a long-term care policy, and they wanted to buy her out for $8,000. I told her that's probably 1 month of. That's 1 month probably of assisted living. They want to buy her out for that. So I know the insurance company, if you bought at a good time, is really worth its weight in gold now. So.
And we also know that if you have a whole life insurance policy, at some point that is part of the whole life, that it will pay for your board and care facility. Also, I don't know what the requirements on that are, but I know it kicks in at some point, which is what we like about whole life, because it's for your whole life, right? Buys your cars when you're a kid and pays for your long-term assisted living when you're ready to be waited on hand and foot. That's how I look at it.
And I assume too, Steve, the prices you were quoting include food and board and care.
Yes, as far as, yeah, it's usually all inclusive. Now, one nice thing about the board and care too is that you can kind of lock in the price. The ones, at least near me, I always suggest that to my clients, try to see how long they'll lock that price in for. Whereas with regular assisted living, what'll happen is that they'll go from 4 to 10% increase once a year. It's pretty well guaranteed it's going to go up. So that's one advantage of board and care, that you can probably hold the price, probably I say, hold the price a little bit longer than you could with the larger ones.
Oh, that's interesting to know. Eugene, you had another question?
No, I've got them all answered. Thank you.
Okay, I saw your hand go up, so maybe you're just scratching your head. Who knows? So
I wanted to wish everybody a terrific holiday season. A happy New Year. You're smiling. Did I beat you to that, Peggy?
we were not speaking about that till after we stopped recording.
Oh, sorry.
It's quite all right. It's quite all right.
Edit me
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, Steve.
but
very much.
Peggy, you've got Ted in here with a Halloween with a looking like Christmas.
So we are at the top of the hour, and I can't thank you enough, Steve. We would love to have you come back because there's a lot of people that were not here that would be very interested in having more information. And the fact that you do have people that you could refer to in other states, and I presume that Jen also does. And I don't know about Jesse, but we could always check with Jesse if he could refer out of state like that, because we've got Ethan's here from Texas, and we got Chicago, as you know, and Wisconsin, and just Florida. Tennessee didn't show up today, but so we're covered across the states. And everybody, like Mr. Bird said, is growing a little bit older and one day may need these facilities. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice meeting all of you.